Yes, Ben, indeed. What's going on with you has heightened the tension in what has been a very peaceful location all day. If you look over to my right, the police, which have been standing off for the whole of the afternoon, in fact pretty well since the peace camp here was set up this morning, they have moved in. Well, I'm told there are concerns about people leaving here to join the demonstrations down outside the Bank of England. There is another heightened tension, another area of tension in the centre of the peace camp. I must stress again, and I was talking to a senior officer a little earlier who confirms it. We can see an injured man over to our left there with quite serious head injuries. Maybe come up from what's been going on down the road. So clearly there are now injuries as a result of what's been happening up the road. Down here, further down the street here, again, a sense of anger. Bear in mind that a lot of these demonstrators, protesters are staying in touch through the day, through mobile phones, through text messages. They're getting a sense of what's happening around the City of London. I think one should stress, though, that the majority of people here have been sitting outside tents that they pitched in the road for the whole of the day. They've been singing songs. We've seen them having a meal. There's been no trouble at all. But in the last 15 to 20 minutes, things have changed. The police presence has changed, their profile has changed. There was no intention, at least no immediate intention, I was told earlier this afternoon, to try and clear the peace camp. As far as I know, that instruction has not been given, but there is definitely a sense now that the police here want those who are in Bishopsgate outside the Climate Exchange, which is that stone building behind me, they want them to remain here at least until the trouble down the road has ceased. We'll come back to you with more from here as and when it happens.
Robert Hall there in Bishopsgate, thank you very much indeed.
Encourage debate, empower people, I suppose, to think about things in a very easy way. You can read what you write and you can disagree with you or agree with you online. I wonder, when we watch pictures like this, I suppose, maybe it's a fatuous question, but do you think the quality of debate can be getting better? There is an enlarged audience for political discourse because of the web.
I think absolutely there is, because if you don't live in London, if you live out in the provinces somewhere, you live sort of 32 Acacia Avenue, Scunthorpe, 20 years ago your only chance to get your views across was to write to your local newspaper, and your letter might or might not be published. Nowadays you have huge opportunities. If you've got something to say, there is a forum for you somewhere to say it, and you can get it off your chest. But I mean, the internet can be a fairly violent place too. Political blogs are not quiet places. I mean, if you look at my blog, some of the comments are very, very aggressive, and it's very difficult. You want to have free speech, and I don't like censoring anything, but sometimes arguments get out of control, and you have the internet equivalent of burning an effigy, I suppose. And it is every blogger draws a different line as to where the border over which they won't let people tread.
Ian, back with you in Korean just a second. Let me just rejoin Stuart Ramsey. We're just playing some tape, Stuart, of the effigy being burnt, so we've seen that in close-up now. Just let's check back with you on what's happening on this movement of people, or has things still reached another impasse for the time being?
Yeah, well, that's what happens, isn't it, Martin? In these type of events, it goes up and it goes down again. People are still trying to leave, but the effigy is burnt out. There's now another fire that was set. That seems to have been put out as well, but the police have moved people now back from the Bank of England proper, and there's ranks of police now still waiting. I think a decision is being made right now as to whether they allow some more people to leave in perhaps larger numbers. There's riot police all around here, closing off alleyways, closing off some of the other roads, so one has to assume they're preparing for them to move through. Now they're making an announcement. I think they're announcing that they're about to move them out. I think that's what they're saying.
While you just listen to that announcement, Stuart, maybe you can bring to us in a second just confirmation. You can see on screen a total of 32 arrests being made at the moment. Somebody's very excited because their friend on the mobile phone is obviously watching what they're doing on Sky News right now. This is what happened a few moments ago. As Stuart was talking to us, we saw the movement of the police deciding that they had to gain ground, whatever their strategy was, and that 10-20 metre push with violence, with force, and with batons deployed, and then a retreat. And once again, as you see, it's almost as many press that get caught up in these movements as does the actual people who are attending these events. But that was a strategic call that's been made, and well, this has been thought out through the controllers at Scotland Yard who've been running this. Now, why this was necessary, well, let me turn to you, Stuart. I don't know if you can answer the question, but it certainly seems that for whatever reason and for whatever provocation, this particular group of officers was empowered to go forward and hit people. Okay, Stuart's just away from the microphone, I think, for the moment. This is not live picture, let me just say to you, this happened a few moments ago. But this was one of the latest moves, and it's in one of the roads just around the Bank of England, or in that area, that confluence of streets, that multiple junction just outside the Bank of England buildings. And it's in this area where people are now corralled. Should we just go to is our other shot live? Can we just see that at the moment, where there seem to be some partying and celebrations going on? Let's listen in. Well, now that's one camera position you can see just further down the road. To the right-hand side of the screen is the position where I think my colleague Stuart Ramsey is reporting from right now. Maybe just out of your sight, Stuart, and I know you're right next to the police vans making announcements. There's a sort of party atmosphere, improvised music, there's people dancing and everything else in celebration, whether that's in defiance that they want to stay there. But I was just throwing the question to you. We've just been playing the video recordings of the police deciding to make that move, quite a violent move forward. Is this part of an overall plan that eventually this area needs to be cleared and needs to be cleared soon?
I think it has to be, Martin, because obviously it is getting darker now, and I don't suppose the police want to be here all night, though there's a very good chance they might be. What I think is happening, and it was very difficult to work out what the announcement from the police was, but I think it was they were telling people to move towards the Mansion House. Now, that picture you can see of the people all dancing about, that would be from the camera angle from where they are to their left. It's to my right, and they would move down the street. Now, a small stream of people was allowed through, but only relatively small numbers, probably 20 or 30, and they're now being marched off down the road and away. But again, then the cordon immediately sealed itself, and the police have now stopped them again. But a lot of people have moved down away from the Bank of England end, moving down towards this end, and one has to assume that they will be making their way out as soon as the police feel that they can control them as they leave. As I say, all the streets have been sealed off. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of police everywhere, and they must be like trying to move them away now.
Stuart, thank you very much indeed. Back with more conversation about the protest today and about the G20 meeting tomorrow in a couple of moments.
It's certainly a mixed group. There are people who just simply came down to take a look and see what all the fuss was about. There are others, on the other hand, who came down here to give it a real red-hot go, and they are getting their opportunity to do so. But certainly a lot of people here trapped without facilities, water, all those sorts of basic conveniences. And it's unclear they could be here for some hours yet, Richard.
Phil, come back if that gets more serious.